The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, Earth Standard Time. It came through every communication channel simultaneously, forcing itself onto every screen, every display, every device capable of receiving a signal. The Korthax Empire had made sure that every human being in occupied space would hear their words. Admiral Nathan Pierce was drinking coffee on the bridge of the TSS Valiant when the transmission began. He set down his cup slowly as the face of an alien appeared on the main view screen. The creature was tall and reptilian, with scales that shimmered like polished bronze and eyes that held nothing but contempt. "I am Lord Vraxian, High Ambassador of the Korthax Empire," the alien said. His voice was translated into perfect English by systems far more advanced than anything humanity had developed. "Your species has spread into territory that belongs to the Empire. This expansion ends now." Captain Lisa Grant stood beside Nathan, her hand instinctively moving toward her sidearm even though the transmission was just a recording. Commander Jack Murphy leaned forward in his chair, his jaw tight. Lieutenant Kyle Sanders at the tactical station pulled up defensive readouts without being asked. "You will surrender all colony worlds beyond your home system," Vraxian continued. "You will submit to Imperial rule. You will provide tribute in resources, technology, and labor. You have 72 hours to comply." The alien paused and something that might have been a smile crossed his face. "Failure to surrender will result in the complete destruction of your species. We have eliminated civilizations far more advanced than yours. You are nothing but insects who learn to fly." The transmission ended. For a long moment, the bridge was silent. "Sir?" Lisa said quietly. Nathan picked up his coffee and took another sip. "Get me a channel to Earth Command, and somebody find out where their fleet is positioned." The answer came within minutes. 600 Korthax warships sat at the edge of human space, arranged in a formation that had conquered 300 star systems over the past millennium. Each ship was massive, bristling with weapons that could crack a planet's crust. Their smallest frigate was twice the size of humanity's largest battleship. On Earth, the United Earth Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from every nation and every colony flooded the chamber. Some demanded immediate surrender. Others called for war. Most simply sat in stunned silence, trying to comprehend the magnitude of what they faced. President Helen Carter stood at the podium and waited for the shouting to die down. She was a small woman with gray hair and steady hands. She had governed Earth through plagues, economic collapses, and the difficult early years of colonial expansion. She did not scare easily. "We will hear their terms in person," she said. "Ambassador Vraxian has agreed to appear before this council." The holographic projector activated and the Korthax ambassador materialized in the center of the chamber. He looked around at the assembled humans with the same expression a man might wear while inspecting insects in a jar. "Have you made your decision?" Vraxian asked. "We have questions," Helen replied calmly. "You claim we have entered your territory. Our records show no previous contact with your empire. How can we have violated borders we did not know existed?" Vraxian laughed. It was an unpleasant sound. "Ignorance is not an excuse. The galaxy belongs to the strong. You are weak. Therefore you have no rights except those we grant you." "I see," Helen said. "And if we refuse your terms? Then we will demonstrate what happens to primitives who defy the Empire." Vraxian gestured dismissively. "We have burned 100 worlds. Yours will simply be another." Helen nodded slowly. "Thank you for clarifying your position. We will provide our answer within the 72-hour deadline." Vraxian looked surprised that she had not collapsed in terror. "Do not test our patience, human. We have granted you time only because it amuses us to watch you scramble." "Of course," Helen said with a slight smile. "We would hate to disappoint you." The hologram vanished. The council chamber erupted in arguments again, but Helen simply walked out. She had another meeting to attend, deep beneath the Swiss Alps, in a bunker that had been expanded continuously for 50 years. Helen met with Admiral Nathan Pierce and the Joint Chiefs of Staff from every branch of Earth's military. The room was filled with holographic displays showing ship positions, resource stockpiles, and tactical analyses. "Tell me the truth," Helen said. "Can we win?" Nathan stood up and walked to the largest display. "Define win, survive. Remain independent. Make them regret ever finding us," Nathan smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Then yes, we can win." He activated a series of files that only a handful of people knew existed. For 50 years, Ever since humanity had discovered they were not alone in the galaxy, every military strategist had been preparing for this moment. They had studied every conflict they could find records of. They had analyzed how the Korthax Empire fought, how they thought, what they expected. They fight like every empire in human history, Nathan explained. They rely on superior numbers and firepower. They expect enemies to meet them in open battle. They have never faced an opponent who refused to play by their rules. General Patricia Moore, head of the Colonial Defense Forces, pulled up another set of files. We have fortified every colony world. Not with traditional defenses, with traps, with redundancies, with evacuation plans that can move entire populations within hours. Admiral Kevin Wright, commander of the Home Fleet, added his piece. Our ships are smaller and faster than theirs. We cannot match their firepower in a straight fight, but we do not plan to fight straight. Lieutenant Commander Ashley Parker, head of intelligence, showed satellite imagery of the Korthax fleet. Their communication is centralized. Their supply lines are long. Their commanders are arrogant. They have not fought a real war in 200 years, just extermination campaigns against helpless victims. Helen listened to it all. When they finished, she looked around the room at these men and women who had spent their lives preparing for a war they hoped would never come. You really think we can do this? She asked. Nathan met her eyes. Madam President, they think we are insects. That is their first mistake, and when they realize what we actually are, it will be too late. Helen Carter took a deep breath. Then we fight. Prepare the fleet. Evacuate the outer colonies. Get our people to safety and turn those worlds into nightmares for anyone who tries to take them. What will you tell the council? Patricia asked. Helen smiled. It was the same smile Nathan had worn. The truth. That humanity did not crawl out of caves and reach for the stars just to bow before some empire that thinks might makes right. 72 hours later, Admiral Nathan Pierce sat on the bridge of the TSS Valiant. Every human warship had been mobilized. Every defense platform was armed. Every trap was set. Lord Vraxian appeared on the screen again, expecting to see humanity's surrender. Instead, he saw Nathan Pierce sitting comfortably in his command chair, a cup of coffee in his hand. Admiral, Vraxian said with false politeness, I trust you bring your government's compliance? Nathan set down his coffee. I do bring a message from the United Earth government. President Carter asked me to deliver it personally. Then speak. Nathan leaned forward. Behind him, his crew watched with expressions that mixed fear and determination. They knew what was coming. They knew the odds. They also knew they were not going to back down. The President asked me to thank you for your generous offer, Nathan said. We have considered it very carefully. Earth's official response is as follows. He paused. Come and take it. Vraxian's expression shifted from amusement to confusion to rage in the span of seconds. You dare refuse the Empire? We do not refuse, Nathan replied. We simply decline. There is a difference. Refusal implies we acknowledge your authority. We do not. You are an empire that got fat on weak opponents. Now you have found someone who will fight back. You will be destroyed. Vraxian roared. Nathan smiled. Maybe, but you are going to bleed for every inch. And when this is over, every species in this galaxy will know that humanity does not kneel. He gestured to his communications officer. Broadcast this on all channels. Let both our people and theirs hear what comes next. The young officer nodded and opened every frequency. Nathan stood up. The Korthax Empire declared war on humanity. They expected us to surrender. They expected us to beg. They were wrong. He looked directly into the camera. To every human in occupied space, get ready. To every Korthax warrior heading our way, you have made the last mistake of your lives. This is Admiral Nathan Pierce of the Terran fleet. We are humanity. We do not surrender. We do not break. And we are going to teach you why that matters. He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. All ships, battle stations, let them come. Outside the viewports, 600 Korthax warships began their advance into human space. They moved with confidence, expecting an easy conquest. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The Korthax fleet moved through space like a slow tide of destruction, 600 warships advancing in perfect formation, their commanders confident that this would be over quickly. They had done this dozens of times before. Find a primitive species, crush their defenses, and add another few systems to the Empire's endless territory. Admiral Corthan commanded the invasion fleet from his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. He was a veteran of 30 campaigns, each one ending in total victory. He expected this to be no different. Humans had only been in space for a few generations. They had maybe 200 warships scattered across 40 systems. The math was simple. The Empire would win because the Empire always won. First target? He asked his tactical officer. The colony world designated New Austin, came the reply. Population of 2 million. Agricultural world. Minimal military presence, Corthan nodded. We will make an example of it. Full orbital bombardment. Leave nothing standing. The fleet adjusted course and headed toward New Austin. It would take them 3 days to reach the colony at their current speed. Corthan was in no hurry. Let the humans watch them come. Let fear do half the work. On New Austin, Governor Rachel Bennett watched the Korthax fleet approach on long-range sensors. She had known this day would come. Every colonial governor had received the same briefing 6 months ago. When the Empire came, they would not try to hold the worlds. They would turn them into traps. How long until they arrive? She asked her security chief, Colonel Frank Martinez. 70 hours, Frank replied. He was a stocky man with gray at his temples and the calm demeanor of someone who had seen combat before. Evacuation is 90% complete. We will have everyone off-world in 48 hours, Rachel nodded. New Austin had been her home for 15 years. She had helped build the farms that fed 3 other colonies. Now she was going to destroy it all. Activate the packages. Across the planet, automated systems began arming themselves. Every major city, every industrial center, every facility that might be useful to an invading force had been rigged with enough explosives to level a mountain. Nuclear devices, antimatter charges, and conventional explosives all networked together and waiting for a single signal. The last transport ships lifted off from New Austin 43 hours before the Korthax fleet arrived. Rachel Bennett was on the final shuttle, watching her world shrink behind her. She carried the detonator in her pocket, a simple device with a single button. Commander Jack Murphy waited for her aboard the TSS Relentless, a heavy cruiser that had been hiding in the outer system. He was a tall man with an easy smile that disappeared when he worked. Right now his expression was cold and focused. Governor Bennett, he said as Rachel boarded, your people are safe. All transports have reached the refugee fleet. Good, Rachel said. She looked tired but determined. Then let us give the Empire a proper welcome. The Korthax fleet entered orbit around New Austin expecting to find a terrified population begging for mercy. Instead, they found empty cities and silent farms. Corthan frowned at the readings. Where are they? He demanded. The planet appears to be abandoned, his sensor officer reported. No life signs. No power signatures, nothing. Corthan did not like surprises. Send down a landing force. Search the major population centers. 70 dropships descended toward New Austin's surface. They carried 3,000 troops, elite soldiers who had conquered worlds before. The ships spread out, targeting the largest cities and industrial sites. Commander Murphy watched them descend on his tactical display. He waited until they were committed, until all 70 ships were below the cloud layer and approaching their landing zones. Then he looked at Rachel. She pulled the detonator from her pocket and pressed the button without hesitation. New Austin exploded. Every city erupted simultaneously in a cascade of nuclear fire. The blasts were carefully calculated, positioned to create a chain reaction that would tear through the planet's crust. Antimatter charges buried at key tectonic points detonated milliseconds later, multiplying the destruction. The dropships had no chance. They were vaporized instantly, their shields overwhelmed by the thermal pulse. The shockwave raced upward, slamming into the Korthax ships in low orbit. 12 capital ships took critical damage. 4 simply broke apart as the wave hit them. Murphy did not give the enemy time to recover. All ships fire! The Relentless had brought friends. 20 human warships had been hiding in the asteroid belt beyond New Austin, their power signatures masked by the rocks around them. Now they opened fire, launching missiles and railgun rounds at the stunned Korthax fleet. The Empire's ships scrambled to respond, but they were out of position, shocked by the sudden violence. Human missiles streaked through the chaos, targeting damaged ships that could not properly defend themselves. 3 more Korthax vessels exploded. 2 others lost power and began drifting. Break off, Murphy ordered. Jump to the rally point. The human ships activated their faster-than-light drives and vanished before the Korthax could organize a pursuit. They left behind a ruined planet and a fleet that had just lost 20 ships without even seeing the enemy's main force. On the Eternal Dominion, Admiral Corthan stared at the tactical display in disbelief. What just happened? No one had an answer. News of New Austin reached the rest of the Korthax fleet within hours. The response was predictable. They would crush the humans with overwhelming force. No more caution, no more measured advance. The Empire would burn every human world until nothing remained. Captain Lisa Grant received her orders while her ship, the TSS Defiant, was refueling at Proxima Station. She read them twice to make sure she understood correctly. "They want us to hold Proxima," she said to her first officer, Lieutenant Commander Paul Stevens. "That's what it says," Paul replied. He was looking at the same tactical data she was. "Korthax battle group inbound. 25 capital ships. They will reach us in 18 hours. Lisa looked around the bridge. Her ship was a light cruiser, fast and tough, but not designed to face that kind of firepower. "How many ships do we have?" "Just us and 3 destroyers," Paul said quietly. "Everything else pulled back to defend the inner colonies." Lisa nodded slowly. She understood the strategy. Proxima Station was not important enough to defend with the main fleet, but it was a perfect place to make the Empire bleed. Then we make them earn it. For the next 18 hours, Lisa and her crew prepared. They did not fortify the station. Instead, they turned it into bait. They powered up every system, broadcast normal traffic, and made it look like a juicy target that was unaware of the approaching threat. The Korthax arrived expecting easy prey. They found Proxima Station broadcasting entertainment channels and civilian chatter. Admiral Varthok, commanding the battle group, smiled. Finally, an enemy that did not know he was coming. "All ships, attack formation," he ordered. "Destroy the station and any ships in the area." The battle group accelerated toward Proxima, weapons charging. They were halfway to the station when Lisa sprang her trap. The 3 destroyers had been hiding behind Proxima's small moon. Their power completely shut down. Now they activated and fired, not at the Korthax ships but at the prepared cargo containers floating in space around the station. Each container held thousands of mines. Small autonomous weapons programmed to seek out the largest power sources nearby, 50,000 mines, activated at once. The Korthax point defense systems were good, but they were designed to handle dozens of missiles, not thousands of small targets coming from every direction. The mines swarmed the fleet, latching onto hulls and detonating. Shields flared and failed under the sheer weight of explosions. Lisa brought the Defiant in fast, targeting the command ship while its sensors were overwhelmed. "All weapons fire!" Her ship unleashed everything it had, missiles, railguns, and laser batteries, all focused on the Varthok's flagship. The Korthax ship was huge and well-armored, but Lisa knew where to hit it. Her targeting officer, Lieutenant Sam Hughes, put 3 missiles directly into the ship's reactor housing. The flagship lost power, drifting helplessly as internal explosions tore through its interior. "Enemy ships recovering," Paul warned. "We need to leave now." "Not yet," Lisa said. She maneuvered the Defiant through the chaos, her pilot threading the ship between Korthax vessels that were trying desperately to organize a defense. She targeted their command and control systems, the sensor arrays and communication hubs that let them coordinate. 2 more Korthax ships went dark as her railguns found their marks. "Captain, we are taking heavy damage," her damage control officer reported. "Shields at 20%, Lisa checked her tactical display. 3 enemy capital ships were burning. 5 more were damaged. The rest were finally getting their act together, and every weapon was turning toward her single ship. "All right," she said. "Now we run." The Defiant jumped to faster than light speed with seconds to spare. Behind her, Proxima Station exploded as pre-planted charges destroyed it, denying it to the enemy. Admiral Varthok, trapped on his dying flagship, watched the human ship escape and felt something he had not experienced in decades: fear. These humans did not fight like any enemy the Empire had faced before. Back on Earth, Admiral Nathan Pierce reviewed the battle reports coming in from across human space. New Austin, Proxima, and a dozen other. The Korthax Empire had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years. In all that time, no enemy had ever inflicted the losses humanity had managed in just 3 weeks of fighting. The Imperial Throne World received the battle reports with growing disbelief and then rage. Emperor Thaxus himself convened the War Council. He was ancient by Korthax standards, nearly 400 years old, and he had never known defeat. He sat on his throne of black stone and listened to his admirals explain how a species that had barely mastered faster-than-light travel was destroying his fleets. Unacceptable, Thaxis said quietly. That one word carried enough weight to make every admiral in the room go silent. You will commit the reserve fleets. 800 additional ships. I want humanity erased from existence. Lord Vraxian, who had delivered the original ultimatum, stood and bowed. Your Majesty, perhaps we should reconsider our approach. These humans fight unlike any enemy we have faced. They do not meet us in open battle. They strike from ambush and retreat before we can respond. Are you suggesting we surrender to primitives? Thaxis asked. His voice was soft but deadly. No, Your Majesty. I am suggesting we adjust our tactics, study them, learn how they fight. Thaxis rose from his throne. He was massive, even by Korthax standards, his scales dark with age. We do not adjust. We do not learn from lesser species. We simply crush them beneath our might, send the reserve fleets, burn every human world, show the galaxy what happens to those who defy the Empire. The admirals bowed and left to carry out their orders. Vraxian remained behind, a growing sense of dread settling over him. He had fought in many campaigns, conquered many worlds, but something about these humans disturbed him. They fought like they had nothing to lose and everything to prove. On Earth, Admiral Nathan Pierce received intelligence reports about the incoming Korthax reinforcements. 800 fresh warships heading for human space. Combined with what remained of the original invasion force, humanity would soon face nearly 1,200 enemy vessels. He called a meeting of his senior commanders. They gathered in the war room beneath Geneva, faces grim but determined. Captain Lisa Grant was there, having survived Proxima and been given command of a new ship. Commander Jack Murphy attended via hologram from his carrier group in the outer colonies. General Patricia Moore represented the ground forces. They are throwing everything at us, Nathan said, pulling up tactical displays. Within a month, we will face the largest fleet the Empire has assembled in 2 centuries. Can we win? Patricia asked directly. Nathan looked around the room. Not in a straight fight. They still outnumber us 3-1, but we are not going to give them a straight fight. He activated a new series of battle plans. We are going to shift strategies. No more defensive actions at the colonies. We evacuate everything we can and then we go on the offensive. Lisa leaned forward. Offensive? How? We hit their supply lines, Commander Murphy said, understanding dawning on his face. They are operating far from home. Every ship needs fuel, ammunition, repairs. Exactly, Nathan confirmed. We have been tracking their logistics network. They have established supply depots in captured systems, fuel shipments from their core worlds, repair facilities. All of it is vulnerable. He pulled up a star map. We are going to send small units to destroy these targets. Hit-and-run attacks. Make it impossible for them to maintain their fleet this far from home. Patricia nodded slowly. Guerrilla warfare on an interstellar scale. Yes, and while we do that, we prepare Earth's defenses. Because eventually they will come here, and when they do, we will be ready. The plan was put into motion immediately. Dozens of small strike teams were assembled and sent out across human space. Each team had a specific target and strict orders. Hit hard, hit fast, and disappear before the enemy could respond. Lieutenant Monica Hayes led one such team. She was young, barely 25, but she had grown up on a colony world and knew how to survive in hostile environments. Her team consisted of 12 Special Forces operators and a fast stealth ship called the Shadow Runner. Their target was a Korthax fuel depot in the Vega system. The depot supplied over 200 enemy ships, making it a vital link in the Empire's logistics chain. If it were destroyed, those ships would be stranded until new supplies could be brought forward. Monica and her team spent 4 days observing the depot from long range. They studied guard rotations, traffic patterns, and security protocols. The Korthax were confident in their superior technology and did not expect humans to penetrate this deep into occupied territory. We go tonight, Monica told her team. Standard insertion. Plant the charges and get out before they know we are there. They used a captured Korthax shuttle to approach the depot. The Empire's identification codes, stolen from a previous raid, got them past the outer security without question. Monica piloted the shuttle personally, her hands steady on the controls despite the tension. The depot was massive, a sprawling complex of storage tanks and refueling stations orbiting a dead moon. Hundreds of workers moved through the facility, most of them slaves from conquered species. Monica felt anger burn in her chest at the sight but pushed it down. Mission first. They docked at a maintenance bay and slipped into the facility wearing stolen uniforms. The Korthax barely looked at them. In an empire spanning 300 systems, who would question a few more workers? Sergeant Danny Cole, Monica's second-in-command, led half the team to the main fuel tanks. Monica took the rest to the control center. They moved through the depot with practiced efficiency, planting nuclear charges at key structural points. Charges set, Danny reported over their secure communication link. Timer ready. Acknowledged, Monica replied. She was in the control center now, watching Korthax supervisors manage the flow of fuel to waiting ships. She placed her own charges beneath the main computer core and set the timer. 30 minutes. Enough time to get clear. They were almost back to their shuttle when alarms began blaring. Someone found one of the charges, Danny said, his voice tight. They are locking down the facility. Monica cursed and broke into a run. Everyone to the shuttle now! Korthax security forces were scrambling, sealing exits and scanning for intruders. Monica's team fought their way through, using stolen weapons to cut down guards who got in their way. They reached the shuttle with minutes to spare. Go, 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 Monica shouted as her team piled aboard. The shuttle launched, taking fire from the depot's defense turrets. Monica pushed the engines to maximum, ignoring the alarms as systems overloaded. They cleared the depot's weapon range with 30 seconds left on the timer. The depot exploded behind them, a chain reaction of nuclear fire that consumed the entire facility. Dozens of Korthax ships were caught in the blast, their hulls rupturing as the fuel they had been loading ignited. Monica allowed herself a grim smile. One down. On to the next. Across human space, similar operations were underway. Sergeant Danny Cole and his unit sabotaged a Korthax shipyard, setting their construction schedule back by a year. Captain Ryan Foster commanded a wolf pack of destroyers that hunted enemy convoys, destroying supply ships and spreading terror among Korthax crews. The Empire's response was brutal. Unable to catch the human raiders, they turned their fury on what they could reach. A Korthax battle group arrived at the colony world of Liberty Point and found it already evacuated. Enraged, Admiral Corthan ordered a full orbital bombardment anyway. Liberty Point had been home to 500,000 civilians before evacuation. 10,000 had refused to leave, choosing to stay on their farms and in their homes. The bombardment killed them all in a matter of hours, reducing cities to radioactive craters. The images were broadcast across human space, transmitted by automated satellites before the Korthax could destroy them. Humanity watched as one of their worlds burned. The reaction was not fear. It was rage. Recruitment centers were overwhelmed by volunteers. Civilian shipyards doubled and then tripled their output of warships. Scientists worked around the clock to develop new weapons. Every human settlement, from the smallest mining outpost to Earth itself, prepared to fight to the last. President Helen Carter addressed the people from Earth, her words broadcast to every human world. They think they can break us with terror. They are wrong. Every world they destroy, every person they kill only makes us more determined. We will not surrender. We will not forgive, and we will make them pay for every drop of blood they have spilled. The war entered a new phase. The Korthax fleet pushed deeper into human territory, destroying everything they found, but now they moved cautiously, expecting ambushes at every turn. Their supply lines were under constant attack. Their commanders could not sleep without wondering if human raiders would strike in the night. Captain Lisa Grant, now commanding the new battlecruiser TSS Defiance, led a battle group in the defense of the colony world of New Hope. The Korthax sent 60 ships to take the system. Lisa had 12. She did not try to defend the planet directly. Instead, she used New Hope's asteroid belt as cover, positioning her ships among the rocks and debris. When the Korthax fleet arrived, they could not get clear sensor readings through all the interference. Let them come to us, Lisa told her crew. Make them work for every meter. The Korthax advanced cautiously, scanning the asteroids for hidden. The operation was named Silent Night, because if it succeeded, the Korthax Empire would find itself in darkness, unable to coordinate their vast fleets across hundreds of star systems. Admiral Nathan Pierce stood before the assembled strike force commanders and explained what was at stake. These 6 relay stations are the nervous system of the Empire's military, Nathan said, pointing to the holographic display. Destroy them, and every Korthax fleet will be isolated, unable to receive orders or coordinate with each other. They will be blind and alone. The commanders studied the tactical data. Each relay station was protected by hundreds of warships and orbital defense platforms. Getting to them would require penetrating deep into enemy territory. Getting out again would be even harder. Captain Greg Sullivan cleared his throat. He was a veteran destroyer captain with a reputation for unorthodox tactics. "Sir, these defenses are formidable. A direct assault on any one station would require our entire fleet and still might fail, which is why we are not going to assault them directly," Nathan replied. He pulled up a new set of plans. "We are going to use deception, speed, and the Empire's own arrogance against them. 6 strike forces, 6 simultaneous attacks. Hit them before they realize what is happening." The fleet departed Earth in secret, splitting into 6 groups as they left Sol system. Each group took a different route through human and neutral space, using captured Korthax codes to avoid detection. They had 1 week to reach their targets and execute the plan. Captain Sullivan commanded the force assigned to Relay Station Theta, the most heavily defended of the 6. His fleet consisted of 2 destroyers and a handful of support ships. Not nearly enough to fight through the station's defenses, but Sullivan had never been much for fair fights. His ships approached Theta from an unexpected direction, coming in from above the galactic plane where traffic was rare. They broadcast a distress signal using captured Korthax codes, claiming a human carrier was crippled and drifting in the nearby system. The Korthax commander at Theta, Admiral Vexus, received the distress call and made a decision that would haunt him. He dispatched his mobile fleet to investigate, leaving the station defended only by its orbital platforms and a skeleton crew. Sullivan waited until the Korthax ships were gone, committed to their search pattern. Then his destroyers emerged from hiding within a nearby comet, their hulls coated with ice that had masked their heat signatures. "All ships attack run," Sullivan ordered. "We get 1 pass. Make it count." The destroyers accelerated to full speed, racing toward the relay station. Their missiles launched when they were still 1,000,000 kilometers out. Salvos of advanced weapons that twisted and dodged through the automated defenses. Half were destroyed, but the rest got through, slamming into the station's main communication arrays. Sullivan's ships did not slow down. They passed within 1,000 kilometers of the station at maximum velocity, their railguns firing continuously. Every shot was calculated, targeting the structural supports that held the massive relay equipment. "Enemy reinforcements returning," his tactical officer warned. 5 minutes out. "Plenty of time," Sullivan said calmly. He activated the second phase of his attack. Drones that had been hiding in the debris field around the station came to life, swarming toward Theta's power core. Each drone carried a small nuclear charge. The explosions were beautiful in a terrible way. The relay station's power core ruptured, unleashing a cascade of secondary detonations. The entire structure began breaking apart, its massive communication dishes tumbling into space. Sullivan's ships jumped to faster-than-light speed, seconds before the Korthax fleet arrived. Behind them, Relay Station Theta was the expanding cloud of debris. Lieutenant Valerie Chen had perhaps the most difficult assignment. Relay Station Sigma was positioned deep in the heart of Korthax territory, surrounded by fleet anchorages and military installations. There was no way to approach it without being detected, so Chen did not try to hide. Instead, she used the most audacious tactic of the entire operation. Her ship, a stealth frigate called the Whisper, spent 3 days disguised as debris. They shut down every system, let the ship tumble slowly through space, and waited. Chen and her crew wore thermal suits to mask their heat signatures, breathing bottled oxygen and praying their masquerade would work. Korthax patrols swept past them a dozen times. Each time, Chen held her breath and trusted in her ship's stealth coating and their position among the asteroids. Each time, the enemy moved on without noticing the human warship drifting silently among the rocks. It took 72 hours of patience, but eventually the Whisper's slow tumble brought them within range of Relay Station Sigma. Chen waited until they were in perfect position, then activated the ship's systems all at once. "Go, go, go," she said. A team of combat engineers had been waiting in the airlock for 3 days, suited up and ready. Now they launched, using personal thrusters to cross the gap between the Whisper and the relay station. The Korthax sensors detected them immediately, but it was already too late. The engineers reached the station's hull and cut their way inside with plasma torches. They moved through the corridors with ruthless efficiency, placing nuclear charges at every critical junction. The Korthax crew tried to stop them, but the humans were prepared for resistance. The combat engineers had trained for this mission for months. Chen watched from the whisper as her team completed their work. Charges set. Everyone back to the ship. The engineers retreated, fighting a running battle with Korthax security forces. 2 did not make it back. Chen felt each loss like a knife to the heart. But she could not wait. More enemy ships were converging on their position. "Blow the charges," she ordered. Relay Station Sigma exploded from the inside out, its structure torn apart by carefully placed nuclear devices. Chen piloted the Whisper through the debris field, dodging wreckage and incoming fire. Her shields failed. Her engines took damage. But she kept the ship moving, kept it alive just long enough to reach minimum safe distance for a faster-than-light jump. They escaped with seconds to spare. The other strike forces had varying degrees of success. Captain Monica Hayes led a team that used electronic warfare to blind Relay Station Delta's defenses, allowing bombers to destroy it. Commander Danny Cole's force at Relay Station Omega fought a brutal conventional battle, losing 3 ships but accomplishing the mission. Within 6 hours, 5 of the 6 relay stations were destroyed. Only Relay Station Prime remained, the largest and most heavily defended installation in the network. Admiral Nathan Pierce himself led the attack on Prime. He brought the TSS Valiant and 20 of humanity's best warships. This would not be a subtle operation. Prime was too well defended for tricks. They would have to fight their way through. "All ships battle formation," Nathan ordered as they dropped out of faster-than-light speed at the edge of the system. "We are committed now. There is no retreat until that station is destroyed." The Korthax defenders reacted immediately. 200 warships moved to intercept, forming a wall of steel and firepower between Nathan's fleet and the relay station. Orbital platforms added their weapons to the defensive fire. The space around Relay Station Prime became a storm of missiles and energy beams. Nathan's ships pushed forward, taking hits but continuing to advance. The Valiant's shields flared under sustained bombardment. Around him, human vessels were taking damage, some breaking apart under the relentless fire. "Target the station's power distribution nodes," Nathan ordered. "Ignore the defenders. We only need to kill the station." His fleet concentrated their fire, missiles, and railgun rounds all aimed at specific points on the relay station structure. Nathan had studied the schematics for weeks. He knew exactly where to hit to bring the entire installation down. "Sir, the Winston is gone," his tactical officer reported. "The Hawk is critically damaged." Nathan did not waver. "All ships continue the attack." The Valiant shuddered as a Korthax torpedo found its mark. Damage reports flooded the bridge. But Nathan kept his eyes on the target. Just a little more. Just a few more hits. A spread of antimatter missiles from the battleship Guardian found their mark, punching through the relay station's defenses and detonating inside its power core. The resulting explosion was spectacular, a miniature sun that consumed the station and damaged a dozen nearby Korthax ships. "Station destroyed," Nathan said quietly. "All ships withdraw. We are done here." The surviving human vessels jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving behind 5 destroyed ships and crews who had given everything for the mission. Nathan honored them silently as the Valiant raced back toward friendly space. The effects of Operation Silent Night were immediate and catastrophic for the Korthax Empire. Across hundreds of star systems, fleet commanders suddenly found themselves cut off from high command. They could not receive orders. They could not coordinate with other fleets. They were isolated and blind. Lord Vraxian watched the military situation collapse from his command center on the Korthax throne world. Red indicators appeared across the tactical display as fleet after fleet reported communication failures. Some commanders tried to continue operations on their own initiative. Others pulled back to defensive positions, unsure what to do without orders. The careful coordination that had made the Korthax military so effective. The news reached the Korthax throne world like a thunderclap. The relay stations were destroyed. The human fleet had penetrated deep into Imperial space and crippled the Empire's command structure. Emperor Thaxus listened to the reports in cold silence, his ancient eyes burning with rage. "Mobilize the reserve fleet," he ordered. "Every ship we have held back, every vessel in dock. I want 1,000 warships assembled and sent to destroy Earth itself." Lord Vraxian felt ice in his veins. "Your Majesty," Perhaps we should reconsider. These humans have proven more dangerous than anticipated. Perhaps negotiation— No. Thaxus interrupted. His voice was soft but final. We will not negotiate with primitives. We will not show weakness. The Empire has stood for 1,000 years because we never, ever back down. We will destroy Earth, and then we will hunt down every remaining human in the galaxy. This ends now. Vraxian bowed and left to carry out his orders. But as he walked through the palace corridors, he could not shake the feeling that the Empire had just made a fatal mistake. On Earth, Admiral Nathan Pierce received the intelligence reports. The entire Korthax Reserve Fleet was mobilizing. Over 1,000 warships, including vessels that had not seen combat in centuries. They were coming to Sol system with one objective: the complete annihilation of humanity. He called an emergency meeting of the Joint Chiefs and President Helen Carter. They gathered in the command center beneath Geneva, faces grim but determined. Everyone knew what was coming. They are throwing everything at us, Nathan said, displaying the tactical projections. Every ship they can muster. They will arrive in Sol system within 2 weeks. How many ships do we have? President Carter asked. 500 combat-ready vessels, Commander Jack Murphy replied. We have stripped every colony defense, recalled every ship. It is everything we have. So we are outnumbered 2-1, General Patricia Moore said. Again. Nathan allowed himself a slight smile. Yes, but we are fighting for our home, and we have been preparing for this battle for 50 years. He activated a new set of tactical displays. Earth's orbital defenses are complete. We have 300 weapon platforms positioned around the planet. Railguns, missile batteries, and energy weapons. Enough firepower to make the space around Earth into a killing field. And we have the new drones, Captain Lisa Grant added. She was attending via hologram from her ship. The automated fighters, we have been manufacturing them around the clock for the past month. Nathan nodded. 50,000 autonomous combat drones. The Korthax point defense systems will not be able to handle them. President Carter looked around the room at the men and women who had led humanity through the darkest war in their history. Can we win? Nathan met her eyes. We will not surrender. We will not retreat. We will make them pay for every kilometer they advance. And when this is over, the galaxy will know that humanity does not break. Then we fight, Helen said simply. For Earth. For every human who has died in this war. We fight. The next 2 weeks were a frenzy of preparation. Every weapon was checked and rechecked. Every ship was positioned. Earth's population was evacuated to underground shelters built during the early days of space exploration. 3 billion people preparing for the battle that would decide humanity's fate. Admiral Nathan Pierce stood on the bridge of the TSS Valiant, positioned at the edge of the Sol system with the entire human fleet. He looked at the view screen showing Earth in the distance, a blue and white marble that held everything humanity had ever known. All ships report ready, his communication officer said. Nathan nodded. He opened a channel to every human vessel, every defense platform, every soldier waiting for the battle to begin. This is Admiral Pierce. In a few hours, the Korthax fleet will arrive. They come to destroy us. They come expecting us to surrender, to beg for mercy. They are wrong. He paused, choosing his words carefully. We are humanity. We crawled out of caves and reached for the stars. We survived ice ages and plagues and wars that should have ended us. We have never been the strongest. We have never been the smartest. But we have always refused to give up. The Empire thinks this battle is already won. They think their numbers are too great, their technology too advanced. They do not understand that we are not fighting to win. We are fighting because it is the only thing we know how to do when our backs are against the wall. We are fighting because surrender is not in our nature. So let them come. Let them see what it means to threaten humanity's home. And when this is over, let the galaxy remember that we did not go quietly. We fought, we bled, and we made them pay for every meter. The Korthax fleet arrived at the edge of Sol system in a massive formation that stretched across thousands of kilometers. 1,000 warships, the most powerful fleet the Empire had assembled in 200 years. Their commander, Admiral Korthan, looked at the tactical displays with satisfaction. The human fleet was arrayed before them, 500 ships in defensive formation. Outnumbered and outgunned, this would be over quickly. "All ships advance," Korthan ordered. "Destroy everything." The Korthax fleet moved forward like a slow avalanche, confident and unstoppable. They expected the humans to retreat, to run, to beg for mercy. Instead, Admiral Nathan Pierce gave a single order. "All ships engage." The Battle of Sol began. Human missiles streaked across the void. Thousands of them launched simultaneously. The Korthax point defense systems activated, shooting down incoming fire. But there were too many targets. Missiles began getting through, slamming into shields and hulls. The fleets closed on each other at incredible speeds. Within minutes, they were in weapons range, and the real battle began. Energy beams and railgun rounds crossed the gap between the forces. Ships on both sides took hits, shields flaring and failing under the sustained fire. Captain Lisa Grant commanded the TSS Retribution at the center of the human formation. Her ship was one of the newest and most powerful in the fleet, a heavy battle cruiser built specifically for this fight. "All batteries, continuous fire. Target their command ships." Her weapons officer, Lieutenant Chris Bennett, unleashed everything the Retribution had. Missiles, railguns, and laser batteries all focused on the largest Korthax vessels. Direct hit on enemy flagship. "Their shields are down to 60%. Lisa pushed her ship forward, ignoring the damage indicators lighting up her board. "Keep firing, burn through their shields." Around her, the human fleet fought with desperate courage. Every crew member knew that behind them lay Earth and everyone they loved. They could not retreat. They could not fail. Commander Jack Murphy led a carrier group that deployed hundreds of fighters and bombers. His pilots screamed into the enemy formation, dodging defensive fire and launching torpedo runs against Korthax capital ships. The losses were terrible. Dozens of fighters were destroyed in the first minutes. But those that survived inflicted devastating damage. The Korthax were discovering that humanity's advantage was not technology or numbers. It was a willingness to accept any sacrifice to defend their home. "Deploy the drones," Admiral Nathan Pierce ordered. From behind the human fleet, 50,000 autonomous combat drones activated. They were small, fast, and completely expendable. Each one carried enough explosives to damage a capital ship if it could get through the defenses. The drones swarmed forward like a cloud of angry insects. The Korthax point defense systems opened fire, destroying hundreds, then thousands. But there were simply too many. The drones broke through the defensive screen and began slamming into enemy ships. Admiral Korthan watched in horror as his fleet was overwhelmed. Everywhere he looked, ships were taking damage or exploding. The humans were fighting like madmen, sacrificing themselves without hesitation to bring down his vessels. "All ships, push through to Earth," he ordered. "Ignore the fleet. Destroy their homeworld." A third of his fleet broke formation and accelerated toward Earth. If they could reach the planet, if they could destroy it, the war would be over regardless of how the battle went. But they had forgotten one thing. Earth was not undefended. As the Korthax ships approached Earth, the orbital defense platforms activated. 300 weapon systems that had been waiting silently suddenly unleashed their fury. Railguns fired solid projectiles at a fraction of light speed. Missile batteries launched thousands of warheads. Energy weapons lashed out across the void. The space around Earth became a storm of destruction. Korthax ships trying to reach the planet were torn apart by the defensive fire. Their shields failed under the sustained bombardment. Their hulls ruptured. One by one, they died. Admiral Korthan watched a third of his fleet vanish in the space of an hour. He looked at the tactical display in disbelief. How were these humans doing this? How were they fighting so effectively against odds that should have crushed them? Captain Lisa Grant saw her opportunity. The Korthax flagship had become isolated, pushing too far forward in its attempt to reach Earth. "All ships concentrate fire on the flagship. Take it down." 20 human vessels turned their attention to the massive Korthax command ship. Lieutenant. Chris Bennett fired a spread of antimatter torpedoes that the flagship could not dodge. They slammed into the weakened shields and punched through, detonating inside the ship's hull. The flagship's reactor went critical. The explosion was visible from Earth.